renewal of mind and reconfiguration of our thoughts that we are able to position ourselves to receive all the blessings that God has set aside for us. For it is not us who are waiting for the blessing, but rather the blessing that is waiting for us to be in the right frame of mind to receive it. I hear a clarion call. It's time to rise and shine. Time to get what's mine. Yeah.
Dai family, and welcome to another Dr. Mumbi spiritual show. I guess that's what I'll call it. It's not really news. I really do pray that you are well in all your ways, family, and that you are now setting roots, planting roots, deep roots into the new earth, because you know the new world order and the new earth are separating, and we are choosing which reality we're choosing the reality we're going into through our choices, through our mindset, through our mentality, because family, there's been a separation. And when I think of that separation, and when I think of the new earth, I think like, and I'll do a whole separate show on the new earth, but the new earth, it's almost like it's a certain vibe that you have to maintain in order to see it. You have to be on this creative, happy, peaceful vibe constantly in order to move in the new earth. And the minute you drop because of anger or pain or irritation or envy or jealousy or all those lower vibrational things, it's like you fall out of focus. And you can no longer see it, and you're back in the new world order where everything is dying and everything is being destroyed and there's no good news, and death and destruction still sells. But before I even, today I wanted to actually talk about the Mandela effect and why I believe they created the Mandela effect many, many years ago. And before I get into that, special shout out to our Patreon family. Thank you so much for supporting us on that platform. We appreciate, love you so much. And to everyone who's bought our ringtones and our latest single, which is the new theme song for the show, Change My Mind. We really, really do appreciate, love you. All the proceeds are going into evolving the Dr. Mumbi show. We really do want to create our own platform, and I'll be sharing that as we get into the year. But if you're interested in supporting us, or if you'd like to purchase that song, the links are down below. Family, for those of you who don't know, basically the Mandela effect came about after when they were getting ready to release him. And there was this whole media blitz and propaganda and all this stuff, talking about Mandela, 21 years or 27 years in jail, just creating that narrative around him. There was actually a group of people who remembered Mandela dying in the 80s, around 1986, and they were convinced that he had died, and there was a funeral that was had. But when you went onto the World Wide Web, okay, it didn't even exist then, but when you started looking and doing deeper research, there's nothing like that. So it's almost like they wiped that story, or they pulled the world into a different dimension, and then they released this, Mandela, and had him become president and all that. And that's where the Mandela effect came from, because they started to say that everyone who had believed that Mandela had died in the 80s was actually a conspiracy theorist. And, the story was not true and all these things. So, family, I guess, my dog is coming to say hi. Hey. So family, what I believe is that, the Mandela effect has been seen on so many levels. And if you look at it, if you do research into it, you'll see how different things, I think it's even from logos, where there's people who remember, is it a Starbucks logo or another logo looking one way 1 year and then looking another way, 10 years later, where they've altered a little thing. And so is it because we're wobbling between dimensions, they're not able to hold, or we're wobbling between narratives, they're not able to hold us stern on one narrative? Or did they invent all of this, alternate realities existing in one reality, so that when the new earth started to manifest, many people would miss it, many people would doubt it, or many people would think that the amazing and magical phenomenon that they were seeing in nature and in the world was, had always existed, and they'd just forgotten about it, or they'd never researched it and things like that. And the reason I talk about this, please check out my brother Sargon the Great. I think he's Orion Daystar on Instagram. He actually was talking about this on his Patreon, and he was talking about how is it gum trees or something that have been found, these rainbow gum trees in Hawaii, and everyone's talking about, and the way the narrative, it's like a narrative has been inserted into the program, you know what I mean, into the general narrative, and now everyone thinks these trees have always existed. But he was saying, he doesn't remember them ever existing. I actually don't ever remember such trees existing. And is this how they're trying to mask the new earth? Because family, the new earth is so subtle. The colors are so vibrant. Everything, it's like you get goggles or something. And to even breathe in that atmosphere of the new earth, you have to see different. And you see with your mind, which means you have to think different about what you're seeing and incorporate all those other, senses, because sight is not just eyes. There's ears, nose, all of those give us insight. So that's why, family, you need to get out of all these narratives, because they're really trying to, they have the minds of so many. And they're trying to delay or distract people from the new earth, especially the minds that they're controlling, by creating this wobble effect between dimensions, and the things they can't prevent, they make you believe always existed. It's like so many people have been seeing crazy phenomenon in the sky. Alien ships, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's so clear, especially if you're seeing with this first eye, family, that we are not alone. And isn't it interesting that, I think, was it last year, I actually did a show on it, where NASA came out and said they're expecting like an alien invasion, and they hired I think it was like 40, or I don't know how many, a couple dozen of the top theological religious scholars, and brought them in to discuss with them how they were going to disclose to the world that aliens exist. Do you think that's all they were discussing? Or do you think these people were being brought on board now because the core can no longer control the narrative? So they need all these other players to kind of contribute to the narrative and feed the narrative and kind of reinforce the narrative, because then themselves, family, even with all the censorship, even with all the shadow banning, even with all the distractions of the greatest movies ever made, the truth is still getting to the people. I was shocked to learn that only 11% of Africans actually took the double Big Mac, family. Because the truth reached them on one level or another, and then many of them didn't have the distractions. And they kept saying we're too poor to receive it. But these are amazing times, and that's why you have to get into your own narrative and don't jump onto these, especially now, these quick stories. Because it's like, these Google stories, family, which are trying to rewrite the story to try and keep themselves in control. I don't know if you've spotted it in other ways. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Thanks again to everyone that has bought our new single and our Wake Up Africa ringtones and everything. We appreciate, love you so much, family. Until next time, tuko pamoja.
I hear a clarion call. It's time to rise and shine. Time to get what's mine, yeah. And I want it all, beyond the riches of the world, to the promises of God for my life. So I'm saying goodbye.